No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, how you all doing this week? I hope everything's going great for you. I'm out here checking on this, what is a compost pile that I've had out here for years, and all I've done is just added all of our lawn clippings and some leaf mold and all of that as well too, that we add to this year after year, and I just let it do its own thing. But over the last couple of months, what I've been doing is I've been getting in here and feeding lawn scrappings into this compost pile here. Oh yeah, look at this. And basically feeding a bunch of worms, and the worms are populating more and more and more. We've just got tons and tons of them in there. Again, all I'm doing is putting in our garden scraps, you know, like some broken, cracked squash and cucumbers and different things like that. Some, you know, leaves and everything, right along with all of the yard scraps as well, too. And that is really going to pump up our compost pile and give us some really good vermicompost in there as well. And come spring, we'll have some real good compost to add to all of our garden beds. All right, let's get growing. All right, gardeners. Welcome to Let's Get Growing, your weekly gardening live cast here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch, and I'm your host today. I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful week. It's been a nice cold week around here, but I hope all of you have been having a wonderful week as well, too. And also, here, real quick, be sure to stick with us here for a little bit, and we're going to have our friend Marc Boucher-Colbert on in just a little bit to talk all about his new card deck, the Design Your Eden card deck, and gardening, and of course all of your questions and all of that as well too. So stick around here for just a little bit, and we'll have that conversation with Marc. And if you are joining with us here real quick here, I want to ask for you to hit that like button, hit the thumbs up button for us there, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And be sure to share with all of your friends. You can also catch us at letsgetgrowing.live. There you can check out all of the different things about our shows and past shows and all of that sort of stuff as well too. I want to give a big huge shout out to all of you who watch on our replay. I know that we are a live show and we like to have a live conversation and talk with everybody, but I know that a lot of you watch us on the replay, so I want to give you all a big huge shout out. And if you do have any comments or anything about our show, any suggestions or anything like that, be sure to get down into the comment section below there and let me know. Also, I love taking in suggestions. If you have any suggestions for our show or any possible future guests that you might like to see us interview here on the Let's Get Growing show, let us know as well down in the comments below. And if you are joining with us here live, be sure to also jump into the chat box that we have here live for you to ask any questions that you might have. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer some questions for you, especially when we get to our interview with Marc in just a little bit, as well as any comments or anything like that. And we'll be sure to feature them here on the show. So again, too, really, really awesome to see all of you here this week. It's been kind of a fun week. I don't know if fun really is the right word, but it's been a kind of an interesting week. We've got some really, really big news in the gardening world this week for us here in the United States. I know there's folks who are watching us in other parts of the world as well too. But right here in the United States, we've got a big, huge announcement from the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, have been working on for quite a while now, putting together a revised hardiness zone map. As all of us know, I mean, we've been out there. I talk about it a lot on the show and in some of the videos and all of that. Is that there's been changes in the weather. We can all feel it. We all know it. And the folks who put together the hardiness zone map for the USDA, they know it as well too, as they're the ones who are really out there researching and checking all of these thousands of weather stations and everything in order to compile information for us to understand what what kind of plants that we can be planting our in our different zones. And that's just real quick, though. We'll cover this right off the bat, is that we're talking mostly perennial plants when we're talking about the hardiness zone map. This is a average of extreme minimum temperatures, and this is just an average over 30 years as well that they've compiled this information. So these are our extreme minimum temperatures, and this is concerning the coldest parts of our season. And it's an average too of all those. So they're not going to be completely exact as far as, I've seen some comments already on some different posts that are discussing this new map. Where someone's got a zone where it's saying -20, -25, but they know in the last couple of years they've seen it go to -28, -30, and even higher than what the number's showing for their zone. And that's going to be the case, that there's going to be maybe even colder temperatures within a certain range of that minimum, and that's going to be a 5-degree range. So that's one of the things to keep in mind when you're looking at this zone map. A lot of gardeners and especially new gardeners, kind of get it confused a little bit when we're talking about what zone we're in versus what plants we're planting. So for the most part, I'm growing a ton of annual plants, and these are just things that I'm going to be growing from seed each year, or a plant start, even, that someone else has started from a seed, or a plant, basically plants that are going to die back, and I'm going to have to restart the next season, annuals. And that's a lot of stuff that I'm planting out there. All of our different, colder weather ones, the lettuces, the greens, spinach, and different things that we're growing there, the kales and stuff like that, to, our carrots, our radishes, and everything up to, tomatoes and peppers, even though, peppers is kind of one of those ones that really kind of plays in both areas here. It's an annual for me in my zone, but in some zones where the minimum temperatures aren't going to get down below freezing, um, uh, pepper plants can be grown as a perennial. So in that case, when we're talking about pepper plants in those zones, it can be grown as a perennial, and we would know that we can't grow it as a perennial if we're any higher than those zones. So that's kind of what we got to think about there. When we're talking about annual plants, our best indicator for when and how we start them, because we can grow most of those in most any zones, is just about how do we have to care for them based on their different temperature needs. But your first frost date and your last frost date are really good measuring poles basically for us to look at when and how, and we're going to get started with our annual plants. But when we're planting perennials, we want to make sure that they can handle the most extreme average minimum for our area, and that's where the zone map comes in handy. And really, it's really important, you know. And there's a lot of things that we're growing even in my garden that are perennials. A lot of our herbs are perennials, our bushes, our trees. We've got blueberry bushes out there. You know, even like my strawberries are a perennial. You know, we've got the fruit trees that we've got even in the, you know, our container trees, you know, as well as planting trees in the ground. These are going to be ones that we're going to be looking at what is, you know, the zone that's best fit for them, or in, you know, how low of us winter temperatures can they get. And that's what the real importance of that zone map is. And here I just want to kind of get in this here real quick, and I'm going to show you here, because the USDA has put together a really, really cool website here, um, for the zone map. And as you can see here, you can kind of zoom into the map, and off to the side, you can see that you got from zone 1A all the way down to 13B. And you can see that like in 13B, their minimum temperature in the winter time, the average minimum temperature is going to be 65 to 70 degrees. And again, like talking about the peppers, you know, we can probably get into a zone B, 9B here, and you know, in this area, and be able to grow peppers as a perennial. But if you're getting down to extreme minimums that are going to get into the 20s and you know, the teens in the, you know, in the 8B, 8A area here, 9A, you're probably, you know, that's when your pepper plants are going to become an annual. And that's when you're going to really want to be judging when you're going to be putting these outside, and you know, starting them. You can pretty much start them in the wintertime at any time and grow them indoors under a light. But you know, you're going to want to know based on your first and last frost date when you're going to be able to grow them outside in these other zones that where it gets a lot colder. So yeah, all the way down to 1A there. And as you can see here on the map, it's all you know, correlates with the area. And so you can see right here at the top as well, they got a spot where you can put in your zip code, and that'll take you right to where you're at. Let's see here, you can even see they got Alaska there, Hawaii out there, you know, Hawaii being pretty red at the bottom there, the warmer zones. But right where I'm at here is Southern Oregon. You can zoom right in there. You just kind of click on the area, it kind of zooms right in there. So we're here in Jackson County, Oregon is where I'm at here, and you can see that we are a zone 8. It's, well, you can see actually this is what makes it so kind of like cool and accurate. It's down to like the mile or half mile, I believe, was what each of these little squares are. And I'm kind of right in here. So mine is an 8B, like right, if I'm looking at right where my neighborhood is. And there's even more sub microclimates than this as well, too, that you want to kind of be aware of in your yard, you know, shaded areas, north facing versus south facing type of things, and that sort of stuff, which creates sub microclimates. But for us, you know, we're looking at an 8B, you know, and also just, you know, about another half mile or maybe a mile from me in this area, we've got 8A, you know, and just as a, you know, with a temperature change of about, I think it's the 5 degrees there. But yeah, it's really cool. You zoom back out and see here, like, go over here and check out, see here, Jackson County, Missouri. Right in here. And you can see that they got a 6A and 6B. So we got 6B in most part here and a 6A right here. But yeah, that, you know, and that's just letting us know that at -10, -5, we're able to grow, all those perennials, those bushes, trees, lots of different flowers and things like that that we've got to make sure that those things can handle up to those extreme average minimums there. But yeah, they've compiled this since the last one was put out in 2012. Yeah, it was 2012 was the last one, so it's been 11 years since the last update, and they had like 8,000 weather stations that they compiled information from for the one back in 2012, and now it's up to over or 13,000 or so weather stations. And yeah, those were half-mile increments, and just really, really great, cool, fun information for all of us gardeners. There's just tons and tons of people sharing this everywhere too, and it's really great to kind of see all of the different conversations that everybody are having about all of it. And really, one of them is, what I mentioned to begin with, is that as gardeners, we're out there all the time, seeing and out in the weather, and we're growing things, and we're seeing how well they do from year to year, and we can see those changes in the weather, and we've had tons of conversations over the years now too about how things are changing. And it's good to kind of see that they're catching up with all of that when it comes to that sort of information and all of that too, because that, really, in a sense, affects some of those things that we're going to be planting in the garden that we have. And I always really stress with people too, if you have, especially your own space, where you can plant in the ground, you can grow those trees, the blueberry bushes and the different berries and the, other, just tons of different things that are perennial plants that we plant out there once, so you want to get out there, you want to plant those things, but you want to make sure that whatever you're planting is going to be able to handle and grow in the zone that you're growing in. So yeah, so really cool, fun information, and hopefully clarify those sort of things. A lot of people, again, to get it, get kind of confused about what they're talking about when, or what they're utilizing to understand about what they're planting. And it's really kind of good to be clear that when we're talking about these sort of things, especially zones, that they are applicable to the perennials that we're planting in our gardens. And plant lots of them, especially too, all those all those herbs and everything. Great to have a good herb garden and everything. So all right, here, let's kind of take a look at here and say hi to some people. We've got Joe joining with us there. Libby, hi, nice to see you. And Libby says went from 8B to 8A. So awesome. Yeah. So that's again, too, like around half of the population has moved, a zone. And that's the case for Libby there, from 8B to 8A. For me, I didn't change. I'm sure that the, the areas of 8B and 8A, which was what I was showing there in my county here, where my neighborhood's going to be in the 8B, but the neighborhood over a mile is going to be 8A. I'm sure those kind of boundaries have changed just a little bit, but I still fall into the 8B boundary for mine there too. So yeah, it's interesting to see who actually got a little bit of a change and who didn't. And let's see here. We got Jay with us again, too. Great to have you with us here, Jay. Jay's an awesome moderator for us, dropping in links and everything throughout the show. So be sure to, check out different links that he drops in for us in the comment section there as we're talking about different things. Oh, and Charles, everybody at Ivy Organics there. Awesome to see you here with us. And of course, we got Rob joining with us there too as well. Rob, great to see you. And I'm not sure though. I would ask Rob. I know that the USDA hardiness zone map was, for uh, changed here for us in the U.S. I would wonder about do they have a similar types of maps that are made for you there in the UK? Or even Canada for Jay as well too. So, oh, and in fact, let me as I'm looking here as well too. Jay did post up here, and he said, by the way, this is a USDA change. Canada was last updated in 2010, and so no change for grow zones for them. Okay. Awesome there. Yep. So again, too, thank you all so much here for joining with us here on the Let's Get Growing show here. And I hope all of you are having a really great week and things are going good in the garden, whether you're still growing outside or inside. I'm kind of moving things in, actually getting ready to start up all of my winter microgreens and all of that sort of stuff. So we are working on that and getting ready to start seeing some of those seed catalogs showing up in the mail, which will be coming up here real soon as well too. And then we can start really planning and thinking about what we're going to be planting out and what we're going to be doing with the garden for this next season. And real quick here, Rob did say, I think we do have a map, and he is in zone 8. Okay. And Jay, it looks like he posted a link to United Kingdom hardiness zone map. Okay, so they do have one. Awesome. Excellent. All right. All right. So we'll be right back here in just a moment, and we'll get to talking with our guest, Marc Boucher-Colbert, in just a few minutes here. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Ivy Organic all-purpose fertilizers offer your plants everything they need to have the most productive, fruitful, and longest-lasting lives. For all plants, including your fruit trees, vegetables, ornamentals, and roses and flowers, in-ground or potted plants, young and established, the 6 macronutrients that all plants need. Macronutrients are those elements that plants need in abundance and include nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. Nitrogen helps with the greening of the plants and the growth. Phosphorus for abundance of flowers and fruits, plus drought tolerance. Potassium is for disease resistance, root development, and strength. Magnesium is the heart of the chlorophyll molecule, which is responsible for photosynthesis, converting waters and carbon dioxide with light energy into sugar molecules. Sulfur helps green pale plants turn dark green and necessary for optimal plant metabolic processes. And calcium, the building block of all plant cell walls. Ivy Organic all-purpose fertilizers have it all in both the super and premium blend products. The super blend simply has a higher percentage of the macronutrients plus azomite, which is derived from volcanic ash deposits, to offer your plants many of the micronutrients too. The product can be applied to the soil or as a foliar feed and even as a supplement to your compost tea. Ivy Organic all-purpose fertilizers are organic, effective, USA-made products to maximize the productivity, health, and life of all plants and trees. Keep growing with Ivy Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.
So, all right. And real quick here before we get to our guest, I did want to kind of give another shout out. We talked about last week, one of our friend Nancy's daughter started a seed shop, Sarah's Seed Shop, and I wanted to kind of give her one more shout out here on the show and encourage all of you to go support this young entrepreneur and her seed shop there at sarahseedshop.com. And I just wanted to say too, because I got my order in, and I just wanted to show this to you guys too, though. Here, I mean, look. I mean, you're getting so much seed. I mean, I can't even. I don't know if you show this. I ordered some carrots. We got some leek seeds here, and some cabbage seeds, and also some habanero seeds. But I mean, really, that's a ton of seeds there in here. These are the leek seeds and the carrot seeds and the cabbage. That's a lot more than you're going to get in any regular seed packet that you're going to buy, whether you go to a garden center or you even order from any of the other seed shops. I mean, I really like, everybody knows, I really like Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. They're one of my favorite seeds. These are heirlooms as well too, but you're going to definitely get more seeds. So go check out the seeds that she's got there. And if you don't find certain things that you're looking for, at least look for her, because she's got a lot of the really great essentials in her seed shop there too. So order some of those, get a really great amount of them, and then, go and check out your other seed companies and seed catalogs for some of those other varieties as well that you want there too. So, really great to be able to support her and to be able to help someone out who's getting started with their small business there too, and a good friend of our show. So really great to do. So I want to get started now here with our featured guest. All right. And joining with us here on the show for our featured guest segment this week is our good friend Marc Boucher-Colbert. Marc has done so many videos and different projects and things with us here. It's great to have you on as a featured guest this time, Marc. Awesome. Thank you for joining with us.
It's great to be here, not just doing a segment, but having the whole time with you to chat and talk about some of our favorite passions, gardening and all such things.
Yeah, it's great too to again as well. One of the things that for viewers who have maybe just started watching the show or just started watching recently and might not know, but Marc has helped us launch the show by helping us out with the In the Garden segment and everything for some of our first shows. And like I also just mentioned too, has done tons of really cool, fun things. We went to the Northwest Flower and Garden show this last year. And I think that's probably a good spot to start with, though, too, because this is how we start. We started our year. We were thinking things are, thinking and planning about all these great and wonderful things that are about to happen in our gardening season. So from that point, when we did the Flower and Garden show to where we are now, how has the garden season gone for you?
Oh my gosh, it's been great and busy. I don't know if your listeners and viewers know, I'll just talk about a couple of different gardens. I basically do three different gardens. My home garden, what's out in front of my yard and some of the backyard stuff. I'm a garden teacher at a Montessori school. So I'm the garden specialist at Franciscan Montessori Earth School. And then I run the rooftop garden at Noble Rot, which is well-known restaurant and wine bar on Portland's east side. So it's been going great guns, and I'm just glad it's November because it's finally feeling like things are calming down a little bit.
I know that is one of the things that when we're aspiring to, and this is the cycle's about to start all over again too. But as we're aspiring to the next season's garden, like we were back in February, for the Flower and Garden show, where spring is around the corner. Our dreams are big. We're thinking big all the time, and then we got to actually start applying that work, right?
Well, first of all, I want to say it just does seem like that right around the corner, and almost this must be a gardener thing, because it's just as soon as you're finishing one season, like, oh, I just get rid of the last peppers, or whatever, cutting down the corn stalks or whatever, it's already like, oh, but next year is going to be even better. Or like,
Yeah.
so it's just hard to really even stop. It's a continual cycle. But, I
Yeah.
did want to say, really inspired by that young woman, Sarah's effort. Is it Sarah? Is that her name?
Yeah, exactly. That's Sarah.
People taking up seed saving and becoming seed resources for the rest of us. That is a really important calling, and
Yes.
hope that every gardener tries to save some seed, because it's very important to have that, to complete that growing cycle, and to just maintain some of your own varieties. That's what gardeners have always done. And that is really how varieties stay in circulation, is by people taking an interest in them and saving seeds. But then we all know that we rely on seed companies. We rely on people who do it at a larger scale and more professionally. And just to see somebody like Sarah jumping in at a young age and saying, hey, I'm going to give this a go, that is just really encouraging. So way to go, Sarah. And hopefully there's other aspiring people out there of all ages who are like, hey, I could do this too. I could save 2 or 3 varieties. I could save 5 or 6 varieties. And sometimes it just keeps going and going. And that's how you develop a whole seed company. You just start little and you keep getting bigger and bigger.
It's so true too. And again, too, like more gardeners and people, I like to encourage people who are starting, garden channels and things like that to express and show, the wider gardening community and help promote all of that. It's a lot of what we do here on our show and all that too, is because I'm just so encouraged by people who get out and grow and do all of that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, the people who are really, developing these businesses like seed companies, like Sarah's starting. I mean, I think that's just really encouraging that, especially younger folks who are getting into this and the next generation going to be taking this over and doing that sort of stuff. So I'm really, again, encouraged by that. Nancy, her mother's been a huge supporter of the Urban Gardener channel since our earliest days and all of that. So it just, it only makes sense that we make sure that we're helping encourage people to go check out her seed shop. Again, I got a link down below to that seed shop. And again, too, it's a nice small venture getting started right now. And she's got a bunch of, like I mentioned, some essential seeds there. And, you go see what she has. I mean, you should see the amount of seeds you get in these little packets that she's got there too. It's just a really good amount. They're only like, and I didn't mention too, they're only like 75 cents a piece too. So you go buy those, and then you get all of these awesome seed catalogs, which are about to start showing up in our mailboxes.
Okay, dude, I got this right here. I'm gonna
you got Pine Tree already?
Because they were the first in the door. I haven't gotten any other seed catalog yet.
Mine should be showing
one in the
too.
door it's already getting my it gets your attention, and you start zooming in on those. It's like I'm circling things. I do always order from Pine Tree. I like these guys. They're a pretty small seed company in Maine, and I really like what they're doing. But I tell you, that first one comes in the door, it's like, yes, now it is again.
It's about to begin. So I mean, now that I see that you've got the Pine Tree, mine should be showing up soon. As well as the Johnny's, of course. I mentioned our Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company's catalog. You got to make sure you get the free one if you don't get their whole seed catalog. But the whole seed catalog is basically the the gardener's Sears catalog of the olden days. So you got to get that one. But again, too, these are the things that the whole cycle is about to start all over again. I will mention though, real quick, because you did mention one of the other things about seeds though too, is seed saving. And that was one of our videos we just put out too here on the channel, was saving tomato seeds, because that's also important too. So, saving your seeds out of your garden to preserve your varieties and the ones that grow the best in your garden and all of that. Make sure you're saving some seeds for yourself as well too. What kind of things are you looking at in your garden that you're saving seeds from?
Well, one of the things I was going to say that's such a no-brainer, and it's coming at the end of the season here, is I've been picking off all my remaining peppers. And the thing that's great about saving seeds with peppers is that's the part you're going to throw away anyway. You're going to eat everything else And you know that seed capsule, it's at the top of the pepper. When you're
Yeah.
preparing peppers, that's what you're tearing out. So if your
Yeah.
your peppers are mature, you get to eat the pepper and save the seeds at the same time. Now you just want to make sure that you're drying the seeds, and you know I let them air dry, or I have a gas stove that has a pilot light in it, so the surface is always warm. So that's a great place to just put seeds on a saucer overnight or for 2 days. Because I have like scraped seeds off a pepper, for example, right away, and I throw them in a glass jar, and then 3 or 4 days later, I look and they're moldy, and it's like, oh.
Oh yeah, definitely good. You want to dry them out for sure.
Yeah, it takes, but it's very minimal processing. It's pretty much just like they almost fall off that capsule anyway, and then you just dry them for a day or two and label them and put them away, and you're ready to go next season.
Yeah, you know, some seeds are a little bit more of a process, you know, that, you know, especially like the tomato seeds in the video that we show, you know, we ferment those down and making sure that you know, we're getting that seed coat that's around the tomato seeds. Similar process I do with our cucumbers as well, because they just kind of got that slimy seed coat that you just want to kind of ferment off of the seed. And then after that, you just, you know, you wash them up and dry them for a few days, and then do the same thing, store them away in a nice, cool, dark, dry place until the next season. And then you're preserving those varieties, you know, that, you know, too, you've grown them. Those seeds have developed from a parent plant that's grown in your area, you know, that's grown in, you know, in your garden, and you know it's successful. So, you know, that, you know, it's only makes sense to save that seeds and save that variety and continue to grow that season after season.
I will say this, you know, there's a lot of great books on seed saving, and you should look to see what can be done successfully in your region. Like for us, for example, trying to save pea and bean seeds can be challenging because we have these weevils that lay eggs in the seed when they're immature. And I've had this many times. Like I'll save a bunch of pea seeds, you know, you pull off the dry pods and such, and then you go to open them up, and there is in the hard seeds, there is like a precision hole drilled out of it as the larva kind of ate its way through. And
those
so you
aren't
get seeds that have like a little teeny, it's rather miraculous, but
those aren't black-eyed peas.
No, exactly.
They're not black-eyed peas. And believe me, I ran into this for the first time. That I mean, last year I really finally grew plenty of peas, because I love pea shoots. So my idea was like, oh, let's grow a bunch of them. I'll harvest a lot of the peas that I'll use for myself, and then I'll grow out a bunch of pods to save the seed from, and then grow my own pea shoot microgreens during the winter season. And that worked perfectly, like last year, the year before this one. And then I saved some of those seeds and started new plants this year, and grew them out. Did the same thing again, harvested a bunch of fresh ones for myself, and then saved a bunch for seed. And again, I had this whole dry like basket thing full of pods that were dry. So I'm like, okay, it's time, let's separate the pods now. And I was separating, and I'm like, what is this black dot that I'm noticing on most of these things? And then as I'm looking at it, and I was really surprised, because I was like poking on it, trying to pull on it, see what it was, and then out flies this little bug, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
It's like you said, it's the craziest thing. So yeah, the pea weevil.
Yeah, that's really the only one that I can think of for our region. And then, you know, there's the purer you want to be, and the more accurate you want to be with preserving a variety, the more you have to take certain precautions, because, you know, anything that's insect pollinated, for example, which is a lot of things, if you're growing 2 varieties in close proximity, you can get a cross. So you may have traits from another variety making their way in. That's not so much of a concern for a homeowner, probably a home gardener. That's a little bit more if you're trying to sell the seed or represent it as a certain having certain traits. If you are
Yeah.
not careful of who's nearby, even at, in a home garden scale, you may be just growing like one variety of kale, but what if your neighbor's growing a different variety? The bees aren't
Yeah.
going to decide, hey, we're just going to preserve this guy's traits here and only pollinate his kale. They're going to go
Yep.
back and forth. So, and then of course, wind pollinated crops like corn and other grasses and grains and such like that. That's again, like the wind is no respecter of boundaries. So you have to,
Yeah.
seed companies have sophisticated strategies and various isolation distances and such, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not really something a beginner needs to do. Just try to get the seed and just get the plant established the next year. Even if it
Yeah.
has some different genetic varieties, it might be cool. It might be a cool new trait, or you might be
Yeah.
generating a new variety.
Yeah, that's very true. I saved a squash seed from a couple of years back when I grew a few different varieties of squash, and it was spaghetti squash that I saved the seed from, and the variety that grew, I got like 2 plants that were true to the variety that it was supposed to be, but then I got this one that looked like, I can't even ricotta or some sort of variety of squash. It looked like that on the outside,
Yeah.
and the inside was just a little bit different, but it had the spaghetti squash
All right.
traits,
Yeah.
in it, but the whole outside was completely different, and so, yeah, so you get these kind of interesting things that happen with some seeds when you're growing, multiple varieties of different things. And you did mention peppers too, which is a big one. The one seeds that I save for my peppers will be seeds of varieties that I'll grow like completely on their own, like
Mm.
well away from anything that I know is a pepper variety. So I have some, and again, there's still a risk. The bees, unless I'm really closing off those pods, which you can do, you can get these little kind of little mesh things that you can close off your pods in order to isolate them and be sure that you're getting them. There's, I've what's worked out okay for me. I haven't really seen any issues yet from this one variety I grow every year, but I grow them way up in the front of the alleyway, which is, couple few 100 feet away from the other varieties I grow towards the back
Yeah.
of the alleyway in order to make sure that they are good distance away. But even then there's still some risk, because, bees, if I'm not isolating them completely, aren't going to choose and stay to certain varieties.
And I suppose while we're on the topic, we should probably just say too that this all applies to open pollinated seeds.
Mhm.
Hybrid seeds are a totally different thing. Usually
Yeah.
in the seed catalogs, they'll tell you that the clue to that is an F1 after the variety
Yeah.
name, and that's basically seed breeders lingo for this is a hybrid. That means it's an
The
intentional
phenotype.
crop. And when you try to save the seed, it will not generate those same characteristics. You'll get the reversion back to earlier generations. So,
Mhm.
there's some people have interesting goals, like, sun gold. This is one I've tried to do. If you sun gold is a popular cherry tomato, it's some people's favorite. It's almost everybody who grows a cherry tomato is going to grow a sun gold because they're so darn tasty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a hybrid. So if you try to save the seed from sun gold, which I've done, you get all these crazy things, including one that I've got now, these little red tomatoes with a little point at the end. That was
Yeah.
so anyway, I was trying to dehybridize sun gold. I didn't get that far, but I got a few generations into it. I didn't get anything as good as sun gold, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually too, I'll mention the variety that because we did the seed saving video I just put out for a variety called Prax Cherry Tomato, which was, which was taken from a hybrid tomato many, many years ago. This is probably
Yep.
even a good 12 plus years ago by another YouTube gardener who basically pulled the genetics out of a hybrid and created his own, what have been, I call because it's so many generations away now. It's gone. I call it more of a heirloom because it has a story behind it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But it's got, many years of being an open pollinated, true to its type, year after year after year. So it's established itself, as a really solid, stable, open pollinated seed, that, I've, call now a heirloom, because I believe it's stable enough. So we share those seeds. And in that video too, I also have, if you watch the video, there's a way you can get some of those seeds too from us as well too, because there's another thing about saving seeds is also sharing them too with other gardeners and getting them out to your friends and neighbors and people as well too. And so that's another thing you're looking to do as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great gift. I mean, winter is the gift giving time, one of them, and the gift of seeds, man, that is a powerful gift.
Yeah. So I love giving those seeds away, making sure that people are getting them for free. So yeah. And let's see here. I wanted to get on here. I saw a question just a few moments ago. Let's see, where are we at? I know it's in here. It was from Joe. Here we are. Joe asks, question: what seemingly easy to grow vegetable have you had a hard time growing? Let's throw fruit in there too, whatever. Just any sort of thing that you've had a hard time growing.
Let's just say this: a lot of things. There's no vegetable that just sits out there in the abstract, right? I mean, it's like, let's take something easy that people say, "Oh, I always have so much zucchini." Let's just say zucchini.
Yeah.
So I have a friend. I've grown some great zucchini, abundant zucchini, et cetera, pain in the butt zucchini. So much zucchini, but depending on where I've grown it, like my front yard is like the water and nutrients are pirated by these fruit trees that I planted many years ago. So it's really tough. It can be really tough to get a good crop of anything there, even the stuff that seems like is so easy to grow. So that's just an example of a situation, a particular soil situation, and almost like an ecological situation that works against a particular crop growing well there, even though it might be seemingly easy to grow. And I think for people who are having a hard time growing any particular crop, there's, you have to broaden the lens and say, oh, what are the conditions under which I'm growing it? What are the temperature conditions? What are the soil conditions? Like I'm looking at cauliflower in the comment there and thinking, if you plant out your cauliflower in mid-spring, then you get a bunch of cold snaps. That can shock that cauliflower into premature bolting, so you don't get a good sized head. Whereas the year before, the weather might have been a little more even, and you're like, oh, I grew this really well this year. I must be a pro gardener. Then you get to year 2, and all of a sudden things don't go so well, and you're like, oh, how come I'm not having the same success as last year? So, it's the environmental conditions, the local conditions of your soil and what's going on there, the fertility of the soil, that all makes a big difference. And that can change from one year to the next. Maybe you went on vacation and you didn't water very well for a week. Well, that could set off a stress response in plants. Whereas even if you come back and pour the water on, that might be it. You might have doomed it. So there's not really as simple as it sounds. I think you have to take into account a lot of factors.
Yes, definitely. And again, too, so many little factors when it comes to growing certain things, especially, and for me, when I look at, some of the things that I've had, and I'm still have a difficult time with some brassicas, I actually had a really decent broccoli harvest this last year. It's been one of those things that, again, if I have, certain issues or certain things, I just I'm looking to, for one, keep a good garden journal, which I encourage everybody to do in order to make sure that you're saving some of those information, a lot of that stuff and those factors that you're talking about, you're going to want to make notes on and all of that, so that, the next year, and which is what I like to do, is, if I find something that's a challenge for me or difficult for me, then I double down on that one the next
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
I'm gonna get this figured out one way or another. And then again, too, some of the more environmental situations and that sort of stuff can make some of them maybe a little bit more of an issue. Kind of getting to talking about some of those things that we're growing in our gardens when it comes to weather and those sort of situations. Some things are going to grow a little bit better in certain weather and zones, as
Mhm.
we're talking about here earlier at the beginning of the show too, talking about the zone changes in the USDA hardiness zone map. Did you get a chance to see any of that or hear about any of that this week?
Well, I did, but the thing that brings to mind. Living in the West, we have the added resource of the sunset zones, which are different than the USDA hardiness zones. But I actually like the sunset zones better because they take into account like a whole complete picture of climate. So,
Yeah.
to say that I'm in zone 8B, which is where Portland is,
Yeah.
it only looks at that winter low. But we know that it's not just how cold things get, it's how long it stays cold, how hot
Yeah.
the summer gets, or how
Yeah.
what amount of heat you can expect. So how much rain falls and what at what frequency, when does it come and such. So the
Yeah.
sunset zones take into account a lot more of that, and I actually find them more useful in terms of telling me good information about what I can grow. It's just so the USDA zone is maybe helpful in telling us some areas are warming up, so it's giving us a long observation period and starting to indicate. It's just some more data, but a lot of us know that already. We've seen and experienced that, and it may give a certain boundary, like this plant really can't tolerate a cold period of this, but the sunset climate zones are going to give you much more information. It's just a broader look at what plants actually do need to grow. Somebody's filling us in there with
Yeah.
we said many of the things we just said.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a broader, bigger picture. I prefer that one. Actually, the USDA zone is useful, but
Mm-hmm. It's
somewhat limited.
about what it's useful for, and I think this is one of those big things that I think a lot of people, especially, again, this is like the biggest news that's going down in the States right now, is this change. And so if you're on social media in these different garden groups and different places, you're seeing a ton of posts of people are posting about this. But I think the largest sense of confusion is especially amongst newer gardeners who are looking for good information that's going to tell them so that they can learn when is best to plant certain things. They get a lot of things confused into the idea of what zones are telling us.
Yeah. Like for example, if I get a low temperature of 15 Fahrenheit, or 15, I think is the defining, 15 to 20 Fahrenheit is the defining zone for us. Is that one night of 15? Is it a week of 15? Is it a month of 15? It could that could be the low. 15 could be the low, but how long is it coming for? I can protect and ward off one night of 15. I can get out there and do certain things. But if I'm going to get a month of 15 degrees, even if it never gets lower than 15, if it's a month, stuff's going to die. I won't be able to, so it's just, again, like the USDA really doesn't give you that kind of information, like how prolonged.
And that's I think that's the biggest disclaimer of the whole thing, is that it is the average extreme minimum low temperature. And this is an average. This is a in general type of context, as you're talking about. It's not, this isn't telling us, again, like it said, if it says that you can get down to 15 degrees, it's not telling you how long or that sort of thing. Plus it might actually get down to 18 degrees. It might actually get down to 19 degrees. It might, because that's just an average minimum within, I think, that 5-degree range. So it could be up to 5 degrees colder
Yes, good
even
point.
than what
Yep.
it actually says as well too. And then again, not knowing for how long as well too. So those things have to be considered. So there's a lot more considerations in, especially when it comes to, and this is in general too, I like to express to people, is that it's not really a good guideline for annuals. The USDA hardiness zone is really kind of telling us about our perennials.
Mhm.
A lot of our perennial herbs, our bushes, shrubs, trees,
Yep.
like I was mentioning earlier, my blueberries, even strawberries, as a perennial, that sort of thing. So, and plants should be rated to a certain amount of minimum cold temperature that they can handle,
Right.
and that's what you're going to be using that for. And there's a ton of other things to be thinking about and considering when it comes to some things that you could plant in there. As you mentioned, too, things that if it does get a little bit colder, that you can protect and you can kind of extend those zones just a little bit, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's definitely, something that when you take in on that sort of information for what you're planting, you want to, know and understand that that's really what it's telling you. It's not
Yeah,
giving you.
generally, your own experience in the zone and your records, even
Mhm.
within zones, there's lots of microclimate
Yep.
possibilities. If whatever zone you're in, let's say you're gardening up against a brick wall, I can tell you it's going to
Yep.
go a lot better for you, right? Because the wall is going to retain
It's going to
heat.
transfer the heat. Yep.
Yeah, so there's just lots of things that you could do to create little microclimates and or
South
that
facing wall of any
yeah.
type, because the sun is going to be coming down on that, is versus a microclimate of a north facing wall, which is going to be giving you a lot of shade and cooler
Yeah.
temperatures,
So your local
understories of different trees and things, lots of different things you got to
local
consider.
knowledge always rules. So if you're new to
Hmm.
an area, ask the people around the area, what's going
Yep.
on here? Find your garden friends nearby, and
Yep.
let them inform you because the big overall guidelines are only that they can't
Yeah.
zero in the same way that somebody who's living right there in a particular
Yeah.
little spot can.
Best source of information you can get for your local areas, and can find and they usually have some sort of like books and things like that you can reference, are your local extension services.
Yep.
And those are, you can find an extension service most anywhere in the country that's local to you and will help you with information as far as that sort of stuff goes. But it's kind of good to know what your zone is, though. But you want to know what information you're actually getting from it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Mark, let's jump into it, man, because you know what? This is really exciting.
So that was all
We've been
prelude.
friends.
We're really going to jump into it. Now we're really going to talk.
We're gonna really jump into it now, because we've been friends for years now, which is kind of amazing to think about
Yes,
on its
yeah.
own. But we've had tons of conversations, and early on, when we had first started hanging out, you were mentioning, and you even showed me some of the earlier versions of what you've been working on for many, many years now. So, how about you just kind of tell us the story and lead us up to this recent announcement that you've made?
All right, so let's talk. I'm just going to flash the box here. This is my demo, so it's got a little marker on it. But Design Your Eden. This is out. What is Design Your Eden? Well, the first word design is important to me. So I've in addition to just being, I love just active physical labor. I love just getting in there, turning a compost pile, moving a wheelbarrow, digging in the soil. That stuff just activates me, and I love physical manual labor, and I love working outside, pruning a tree, whatever it is. So I love all the tasks associated with gardening. But there's another level at which you start to realize, okay, design is important too. The kind of the
Mhm.
thought process that I put into arranging things and ordering things becomes really important in terms of the success of a garden and the ability to fulfill your needs with the garden, whatever they are. And so with Design Your Eden, this is something I have been working on for a long time. I got to get the orientation of the camera right. Um, it's a card deck. So it's a series of cards. So here's, for example, there's 4 different kind of cards in this. The first kind of card is the element card. So I looked at just what are the things that make up a garden or a yard. So this is pretty broad for yard and garden. So here's trellis. Let me see if I can find something this might be for kids, a clubhouse. What are all the things you could have? Candles for entertaining, bird feeder for naturescaping, et cetera, all kinds of things. A greenhouse, we'd all like one of those. So this is like the parts kit of a yard or garden. Just look outside. What do you have in your garden? You have fruit trees, raised bed, flower border, pathway, grassy lawn. These are the things, this is the vocabulary that we all, deal in. And some of it's just given to us. Maybe we just arrive at our house or our apartment or whatever, and there it is. It's like, it's got, my yard has this, that, or that, or maybe it's just a porch. I've got some containers on my porch, whatever size, it doesn't matter. You've got a vocabulary, you've got some things that are there, or some things that you want there that you're hoping for or wishing for. So the elements are one big part of this whole thing. The next thing that I thought was important is clarifying some of the values behind our outdoor spaces, why we're doing what we're doing. Like, here's one that's going to resonate, I think, on this channel: food producing.
Yes.
Like, I want my backyard or my front yard to be food producing because I want to take charge of my food. I want to grow varieties that I can't get at the market, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe you want this in your garden or yard: contemplation. Maybe you're looking for, a space of serenity. You want to try to shape your garden around that. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one: habitat. You might be wanting to support creatures. You might be wanting to attract and nurture creatures, birds on their migration, butterflies that need a source of food, caterpillars that are going to eat and become butterflies. Whatever it is, you might be looking at wildlife as your main value. So there's all these different values that we have in designing our gardens as well. And then the third kind of thing that comes out of this, and I'll talk about the origin of this in a minute, is the connector cards, the connections between these things. Sometimes it's just a simple redesign. Like, some of these connector cards are positional. So this is below. It just says, if you're looking at elements, these are designed to help you think about how elements are related. What could go below something else in a yard or garden? And what would that generate any advantages or any kind of improvements in the design? A pond below a seating area might be kind of cool. You might be like been able to combine 2 different things. You could have fish swimming around in the pond, and if you were like had a glass surface over it and you sat down on it, you could meditate on the fish. So you might want a pond, you might want a bench. What if the pond were below the bench? That may not have occurred to you, but this card may help suggest that.
Yeah.
3 cards, 3 categories, and then one, what I call the golden ticket card, the seen as card. This is an invitation for imagination. But let me back up. We'll talk about the seen as card in a minute. So these cards came out of a permaculture class that I was taking back in 2006, I think it was, as part of a master's degree in education. Permaculture, maybe some of you are familiar with that. It's a design philosophy on, just looking at natural systems and then applying those insights into human systems to make them sustainable. And the opposite of permaculture would be our culture, capitalist culture, because it's going in the exact opposite direction.
Right, exactly.
Sustainable, linear processes generating tons of waste. The waste doesn't cycle around. So just, think everything opposite to the capitalist system is basically permaculture. Circular systems, resource use, using solar energy, designing for local climates and such. All this is contained in here. So we had a challenge to do a project based on some of the stuff that was in here. And I came across one page in this book by the guy who wrote that book is Bill Mollison, by the way. He started permaculture, and he was an Australian. he suggested that randomization or randomness could be an interesting way to design because it frees us from some of the preconceptions we have of what things should look like. And as I started to think about that, I thought this would be fun to do as a project. And I'm going to design a series of cards that have these elements. So here's, he had suggested you write out words, element kind of words that in a garden or yard system. And then you just have some of these connector words like the connector card I showed you below. And then, whoops, I got to get this thing. And you just draw lines between some of these words and the connectors, and you see what emerges. You just try these combinations out and see if anything emerges. So I thought, well, that's kind of clunky. That's not a really easy way to do it. Let's make it cards so we can kind of shuffle them around. And then the ultimate act of randomization is drawing a card. It's like pick a card, any card. It's randomly shuffled. You don't know what you're going to get. So I put these on index cards and started playing around with some of these things. And, you find out, for example, like, let's say you put greenhouse. This is a common strategy that some people use. Greenhouse attached to house. Let's say you just got that as your random selection. Well, you thought, in the winter, that could be a great strategy because I could actually use some of the extra heat from my greenhouse to heat my house, right? And many people do that. Instead of trying to just vent off that extra energy, I could be using it to heat my house. So if you had never thought of that before and you just randomly laid that out, you might be like, wow, that's a great insight. I could benefit from this. I could save energy and use the system to help me in another part of the system. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff that just started to emerge from this game. It was like, that was pretty interesting. And this could lead to some design innovations. As time went on, though, I got, people asking me, hey, Mark, can you help me thinking about doing something in my backyard, whatever. So I'd come over and I'd be like, well, I got this little game. Let's just try to play the game. So eventually I, started coming up with more and more and more elements. And I put them on more and more cards. These index cards were clunky. They didn't work very well. And I think the whole thing moved forward quite a bit when I found these blank poker cards online. And then I could really start to shuffle things. And then it got a lot easier to randomize. So I could take, a set of cards. And these are before I went to commercial production, these are my home version. I did a border. And this was during the pandemic. I had a lot of time. So I pulled out my Sharpie. I came up with color coding. So, you could start to shuffle this. And let's say we wanted to apply some creativity to something. So I'm just going to pick a random card. Okay, look, outdoor speakers, right? Sometimes we want music in our backyard, so we use outdoor speakers. Okay, so here's where the seen as card comes in. I'll bring that seen as card back. Outdoor speakers, seen as, and here's where we get a little metaphorical. So I talked about randomization, so we just randomly drew outdoor speakers. But now we're going to use the process of metaphor, which probably comes out of my liberal arts background. Always thinking about poetry and literature and or things that stand for other things. We're going to use metaphor in the seen as card to help generate some new ideas for outdoor speakers, right? These outdoor speakers, we know what they are. We know how they function. We know what we want them for. But let's say we just randomly drew. So we're going to use randomization and metaphor here. Outdoor speakers seen as habitat.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That kind of creates a little sentence for us. But what it does is create a design challenge because I've never thought about outdoor speakers as habitat before. So is that just total nonsense? That's part of what randomization can generate sometimes, just nonsense. But let's think this through. Let's see if I want to have outdoor speakers in my yard or garden, but I also do want to attract wildlife. So what could this be? I mean, could the outdoor speakers be, for example, situated in some old tree trunks?
That's kind of what I was thinking to begin with, was like, in some sort of sense of, where you're trying to attract, say pollinators, and you're creating like a nice little pollinator rock garden or something like that. And so, you know, you're creating a habitat, but why not incorporate some hidden speakers in there, you know, in order to, yeah.
Exactly. So that's not something I probably would have thought of. Let's say I wanted to put outdoor speakers in my yard. I probably would have just gotten some outdoor speakers and fixed them on a pole or something and wired them up, and boom, I got the outdoor speakers. But this gives us a chance through this randomization and then through that invitation to use metaphorical thinking with the seen as card. It gives us a chance to reimagine what the outdoor speakers could be and come up with something perhaps totally new, or at least really cool, and that's really interestingly suited to our own values for our garden. So this whole design process, this whole design your Eden, and there's the Eden part of it. The Eden is whatever is your ideal garden space, right? Whatever is your ideal outdoor space. So for somebody, it might be a garden flush with produce, and that might be your Eden. Like you're just harvesting year-round harvest. You're getting something every day. You're getting fresh foods and vegetables for yourself or your family. Another person, the ideal might be like a Zen rock garden, just like totally simple and contemplative, no maintenance, no watering, just a place you can go and de-stress and not have to, it's not a big long list of chores that you have to do. It's just like maybe you rake the rock garden. That's the only chore. So each person or each, you know, family or household or whatever couple is coming at this from yards and gardens are obviously very personal things. But a lot of times, you know, we're maybe stumped about how to move forward with making it really satisfying for ourselves. And this deck provides a kind of a fun and playful way to start imagining new possibilities. You know, one of the things I talk about is if you go to a restaurant and the waiter just came up to you and said, what do you want to eat? I think a lot of us would just go blank. It's like, I don't know. Instead, there's a menu. It's like it's a list of things you can choose from, and that makes it easy. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, some are big, some are smaller, but it's like, oh yeah, I'll look through and oh yeah, that's what I want. I'll do that, and maybe put a side order of this, and maybe one of those. So this deck is an attempt at providing a menu for you to think through some of the stuff you want. Because rather than just go blank when you say, I need to do something on my backyard. It's, you know, we need to improve the backyard.
A design your own menu in a sense too, right?
So this gives you the talking points and then asks you to make some creative leaps, you know, with the values and with the connector cards to see. Let's go through some of these connector cards too. I love some of these things. Here's a cool one. Evolving into. So let's say you had, you know, let's say you had a pool, for example, in your yard, and you picked the card pool, and then you picked the card pond. So could you do pool evolving into pond? What would that look like? How would that be? You know, could you have both a really nice swimming area and a sort of a natural area in the same thing? Is that possible? You know, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you whether it is or not. But
maybe a nice little, maybe one that streams off into the other kind of thing.
Yeah. See, I mean,
a nice natural pool that actually streams off into a pond, or even the opposite. So
yeah. So once you suggest it, a lot of these things, you know, the randomization gives us something that maybe we haven't thought of before. But once you suggest it or put it out there as real, our minds attach to it and immediately start generating ideas like, how could this work? Now, I'm not going to say that it might be easy or cheap to do, you know, so that there are limits. But a lot of times we just lack the creativity to even imagine how our gardens or yards could be more satisfying or more fulfilling. So the whole point of this deck is to give you a stimulus, you know, that stimulate the imagination. This is one of my favorites too. In the middle of, just like, what things could you put in the middle of other things in your yard or garden, and how would that change the feel or dynamic? You know, if your yard is all let's say gravel, what if you put just a grassy circle in the middle of that gravel? That would be cool. It would establish a focal point. It could be a sitting area. It could be a place where your dog runs around or something. So just kind of like those small suggestions of what could happen can lead to big insights in terms of your overall, the shape and look of your garden and how satisfying it is to you.
Yeah, and really in the long run too, it's really just also kind of fun to be able to kind of just play around with different ideas and different things. So this really gives you a chance to not just like really maybe even focus in on one thing or one change, but maybe a wide variety of things that you could choose from or think about in different ways, you know. So you could pull out and play around with the one cards in one way and come up with a design, and then try a whole nother combination of different things and come up
Yes.
with a different thing. And that way it kind of gives you multiple different things to think about, and then maybe even can mold those together. I mean, it's just that in the long run, it's kind of endless, the possibilities that really can come from the ability to take all these different elements and different things that we can do to change and design our spaces.
It really is. And along that line, it is, on the one hand, it's focused on yards and gardens and the things we find there. And, most of us have some kind of connection to a yard or garden. But on the other hand, like you say, it is just a creativity prompt. It's just a chance to play, with just to be in that sort of playful, creative state of the imagination. And whether or not you're actually going to do this stuff sometimes is immaterial, because it's just a good feeling to be creative. It sort of expands who you are. I worked with my 4th, 5th, and 6th graders at school, and I just said, okay, guys, this was during some of the trial stuff. We're going to just design a garden here. You're going to get to shop for like 3 values. So I laid out all the values cards, and they looked at them, and they make their list, and then they prioritized 3 that they really wanted to have as their design elements, as their design philosophy. And then I said, okay, the elements, you're going to get to shop for 10 elements, what you're going to put in this garden to help make those values become a reality. So they shopped for the elements. And then each and every student came up with a really creative garden design that they then drew out using those values and those elements. So that was just on the level of the imagination. It was a success. And then it was also encouraging them to think about gardening and gardens and yard design and landscape architecture and all those cool things. So
yeah.
And
also too, it's not, as well as you're kind of mentioning there too, with creating activities with your students and all of that too. It's also another one where, it's not something you could just do yourself, but you can bring others into, so you could have bring your garden friends over for, a visit, or maybe you were in a community garden or part of some sort of group or like that. You could bring these cards into it as almost like a card game played amongst other people, where you're giving each other prompts, and you're kind of coming up with garden design. Because I mean, here's the thing: we garden people. We love talking about gardens. We love discussing our gardens and all of that. And so when we're together with other garden friends, it's just the conversations can just start going. And what better way to kind of prompt some conversations by bringing out this card deck with all of your garden friends and just kind of having some fun thinking about different ways. What would you do in this situation if you had these 2 elements, and that's where it really becomes kind of a fun card game too, right?
I'm really hoping some garden clubs and garden associations will get some of these decks and use it exactly how you're talking about. I'm hoping couples, domestic partners, what you do to your house and what you do to your yard can be big sources of disagreement, and this just gives you a way to literally put your cards on the table and start having a common conversation. Maybe you don't agree on the elements that you want to put in. It's like, I got 2 here, right here. Maybe one person wants a gateway and one person wants a gazebo, but you both might agree that you want something really colorful in the garden. You might both agree on the values, so you can keep going back to the common values. It's like, okay, we both agree on this. We really want this, but how are we going to make this play out? I think it just gives us a way of being playful and fun, game-like, yet getting some really serious design work done as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so that just gets to the point. It's a really fun idea of exploring and thinking about things in your garden and yard spaces that you wouldn't normally do. So, just really brings out some real good creative solutions to issues and things that you might be looking to change and affect in your garden spaces. So I think it's just really, really cool. It's fun. I've been having fun playing around with my deck that I've got here that you sent out to me and all of that. We've been having fun playing around with the different cards and all of that. And I'm really kind of excited about being able to have, a good garden friend over or something like that and be able to explore the possibilities with them as well. So, just really cool. Like I said, it's just, something I've heard you talk about for, quite a while. And I remember during the pandemic time, you were talking about how you really wanted to nail this project down and get it and make it into something, and that's when the real visions really starting to take place as you're moving forward with that. And I remember you showing me some early designs and stuff too, as you were as you and the producers of this were
Yeah.
putting them together. And yeah, it's just, I mean, what a really cool box too. It's such a nice little box and everything. As you can make sure I'm putting this here so the camera can see. You got all your cards in there. It's just, it's really awesome to see that. A lot of people are putting out their garden books and all of that sort of stuff, but you put out something that's really unique for the garden community to be able to explore and really enjoy. And I think that's really cool, Mark. Really awesome.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to my designer people because they were really
Yes.
crucial in this whole thing. When I first got to know the business, it was Detailed PDX or Detailed Freelance Assisting, but I think they're shifting their name to Detailed Small Business Support Services. But just look up Detailed PDX if you want some good folks. One of the cool things about this is, we have a set of instruction cards that comes with the thing. There's QR codes. There's different pathways you can take. Like, for example, this is guided experience. If you want somebody to kind of hold your hand through the whole process, this gives you some really step-by-step suggestions. There's an exploration card where you're kind of like, I want to just kind of do this on my own, but I want a few prompts. And then there's advanced design if you're like a landscape designer and you want to use this with your clients or such. But the really exciting thing is, despite all the stuff that we've created for it, it's still really open-ended. So we want to hear from people like, how are you using the deck? And then we'll just keep including that in the ongoing instructional manual that's on the website. So people will benefit from, if you come up with an innovative way to use the deck, we're going to just put that on the website and let other people benefit from that. So I think the best is yet to come. We don't even know how it's really going to fully open up in the garden world. And I'm so excited to see.
Yeah, and that's just, one of those things that I think is really kind of cool is you look inside, like you said, it's got the instruction cards there. And the very first instruction card basically just tells you, forget the instructions.
Yes.
I love it. The first instruction is no instructions. Just get in, open these up, flip through the cards, play around with the cards. What do you come up with just to begin with, And then, like you said, you got all these other activities that people can look up online through the QR codes and everything that can help guide people in what to do with the cards and try these different activities that you have already. But I mean, what are you getting right off the bat? You know what I mean? When you get these cards in your hands, you're flipping through your different elements and you're seeing some of these different elements. What's coming to mind? How does that connect with some of these connector cards and the value cards and these sort of things that you're just, and that was kind of I think one of the more fun parts of it was, taking on that exploration of the card deck just right from the get-go.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because that is exactly the experience you wanted to create for people. There's just, once you start seeing the elements and certain things, ideas come to mind, the values, the connectors, you're going to have an idea about how to use these things even before you read an instruction. So we wanted you to just have the freedom to do that. Just take a tour through the deck. Don't go to the instructions first. Let's arise what's going to arise. And then after that, yeah, then there's other ways to do it. But you've already found your way. You've already found a way that you have come up with just on your own. So that's really what we wanted. I'm glad you brought that to light.
Yeah, yeah. And again too, it's just kind of really fun in that sense though, is kind of exploring things without even really knowing what to expect from the deck itself. I remember the first real kind of chance to actually do anything was in an activity we did during your I think we did a Zoom meeting for the
Yeah,
launch,
launch. Yeah.
and was really great too, as I got to have fun with our first activity in a little break off session with your wife and another family member, I think, of yours there. And
Nice.
we kind of had fun with a couple of the cards, and we're coming up with some different things. And it was just like, okay, here's a couple of things, start making some sketches. And it was really so, and I remember it was just really kind of like, wow, I can't believe I actually thought of that.
Yeah.
When it came to these certain things, and we were just, again, playing around with it and exploring ideas that, we're not going to necessarily use, but we're just kind of having fun with. And so it's just really kind of cool. Like I said, even for myself, I was, I'd heard about this from you, now, and it's now been made and put into actual product, but I hadn't actually got to do anything with it. So the very first things I actually have that happen, where it was like, oh wow, I can't even remember what it was. It was like some rounded bench, I think, was kind of looking at these different things that kind of I think it was even the evolved with or something like that, or it was kind of an exploration or something. But it was just kind of cool, the whole idea that kind of came about out of it, just out of these couple of cards, and yeah, again too, just kind of expressing how really cool and fun I think they are, even right from not even knowing what to expect.
Yeah, well, that's cool. And the part of the goal of the cards again is to just affirm that everyone is a designer, everyone is creative, and I think in our culture we just put so much emphasis on experts, or I can't do this, or I'm not good at this, or whatever. And I think the whole point of the cards is, yes, you are. You just get these things in your hand, and your brain is going to start generating ideas. You are full of ideas. You've had all these experiences. Part of the thing about the cards is, a lot of times in design we focus on Pinterest or just going right to images, and I wanted to stay focused on words, because to me it's like reading the book before you go see the movie. There's a little graphic here, but it's not too suggestive. And if you've seen a gazebo, you have ideas of what a gazebo looks like.
Yes.
And that may be more important for you if you're designing your own garden, to recover some of the things that you saw in your past or that you associate with that word, versus just looking at somebody else's version of it. So again, it's really orienting toward the creativity that you already have inside of yourself, and the history that you've had with each of these things in yards and gardens and outdoor landscapes. And then just allowing you to express that in new ways with some little prompts and suggestions, making connections, or using that metaphorical thinking, or just drawing a card at random and seeing what comes up in your brain. But it's not like you have to put yourself into it. Your brain oftentimes just jump into visions like you did. You just saw something because of the connection of the words.
Yeah, and I like that point that you make, though, too, is that if we're looking at Pinterest or an image, so we're looking at those elements. These are the elements we want. These are the certain values, and we're kind of poking them into the search engine, and we come up with all of these images. We're getting those images. And again, like you said, when we're just looking at words versus the images, now instead of being, the image made for us out of the search engine, we're making that image ourselves and getting what comes from our own imagination through the word prompts versus visual picture prompts.
Exactly. Yep. So it's all about what's going on for you in the movie theater of your imagination, and then some of that you may be able to realize yourself in the garden. You may need to go see a professional, a landscape architect or a designer, but now you have something to say that you've generated. You've had some time to think this through, and you've been able to play with this. I also think landscape architects or designers will want to use this to work with their clients, because I think it just, again, like gives a way to start the conversation. Let's see what's inspiring to you here. Let's lay out these cards, pick the things you think are cool. Let's see what your garden is going to look like. So I hope it just really brings that level of creativity.
In the long run, and not to put any of those great artistic landscape designers out of business or anything, but with this garden design deck, that's kind of what you become in a way, is your own landscape designer. And you make up and find these ideas through these different cards and like you said, and create all these different images and thoughts that you have. And now all you need to do, if again, like you said, the project's a little too big for you to be able to do yourself, is you're just bringing the landscaper in and go, hey, this is the design I've come up with, this is what I'm looking for, help me make this happen. And you kind of skip the whole landscape designer, because you've become that yourself, and now you just go right to getting the project done, and done in the image that you create for yourself, versus again,
yes.
Instead of like going and grabbing a few pictures, I got this idea for this gazebo with this here and that over there, you're coming up with the images yourself through these different, like I said, all these different elements and things that you can work through with the cards.
Yeah, and now I'm a big fan of all. I have many friends who are landscape architects, and they're bringing a level of professionalism and artistry to the whole thing. And some people will want that level of refinement, balance. They bring a deep knowledge of the building rules and the codes and all that kind of stuff. So, obviously, as the project gets more complicated, it's like I might imagine a great gazebo for myself, but if I'm not a carpenter, I'm not going to go try to build a gazebo because it might fall down. But just the fact that I can imagine it, that's half the journey right there. That is half the journey. And then I can then communicate that to somebody else, what it is that I want and what it is that I've seen. And that is making your own Eden, because you're realizing your inner thoughts and desires for the land, with you're being able to articulate them and have that much more success at realizing whatever it is that you want to do with the little bit of land that's been entrusted to you.
Yeah, that's just really, again, too, really cool. I do have a link down below here for the Design Your Eden yard and garden design deck here. It's really fun. I really hope that you all go and check it out, and not only get one for yourself, but it's the holiday season's coming up, right, Mark?
Who's the gardener in your life? That's our little tag. Who's the gardener in your life?
This make a great gift for all of your garden friends, or even a gift or something you can put on your local community garden budget or garden group or whatever, that sort of thing. So you can do, like we said, you can get together with all your garden friends and that sort of thing that you can do locally in your community and have some fun playing around with different design ideas for different different spaces.
One thing for sure, no one's going to have one because it's brand new. So you don't have to worry about getting somebody something they already have. This is like,
see, and again, too, so unique of an idea, and so unique of a product and a design tool that again, like you said, it'll be one of a kind in that gardener's gift basket or whatever for the season.
Yeah. Well, and the perfect thing for the winter too, because we are in this sort of like a little bit of a quiescence, a little time of reflection, and it's a great time to just let that be the time of when your imagination is fired and about what year could bring, or what's your long-term vision for your outdoor space, what do you really hope to achieve. And a great time to just be in those reflections when we don't have so many maintenance tasks during the winter, most of us.
Yeah. So definitely go and check that out. I have a link down below for all of that to go and get one of your own Design Your Eden card decks. And yeah, Mark, really awesome. And it's been really awesome to have you back here on the show with us to talk all about this here and talk about your gardening season and all of that. And I know that, again, I want to also express to you from other people who are viewers of the show and the different messages that I get from everybody. Just asking about you and how everything's going and all of that, that people here at Let's Get Growing still think about you.
Well, thanks, Enoch. It's always been a pleasure to be a part of your vision and your dream, because you're doing something really important. And you know, your range and your scope is huge. You're networking with all these amazing gardeners, and you're bringing the best of that to your viewing audience. So I really, it's an honor for me to be here playing this small part. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much again for joining with us here today. Again, just such a really great pleasure to be able to kind of end the season and have a great conversation with you and the viewers here about all the things that we've had growing on. And I just want to also end real quick with, again, one more quick plug for the Design Your Eden card deck. This is just a really, really awesome product. Link down below in the description. And one last time, thank you so much, Mark, for joining with us here and Let's Get Growing.
Thanks, Enoch, and thanks to all the viewers. Bye-bye.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
All right. Awesome show today. How cool is that? Really great conversation with our friend Marc Boucher-Colbert. And again, too, really awesome card deck. And just hope that all of you have enjoyed our conversation today. And I did want to mention real quick here too, one other kind of promo I want to do for another friend, the Fig Hunter. He was letting me know real quick this week that they have their Great Fig giveaway, and they're giving away this free variety of, is it Eau Noir? I'm not sure, but you get a free cutting along with any of the other cuttings that they have at their Fig Hunter shop there. And if you like figs as much as I do, and want to grow them in your garden, this is a great place to go check out just a ton of different varieties of awesome figs. So check out the fighunter.shop there and use our promo code Let's Grow. That's LETSGROW. Let's Grow, and you can get an extra 10% off there. So I just wanted to throw that promo out for them there at the Fig Hunter. And again, too, I want to thank you all so much for joining with us here for our show. And be sure to check out all of our links down below for all of the different things that we've mentioned today. Sarah's Seed Shop, the Fig Hunter, and of course, Mark's Design Your Eden card deck. And again, if you are with us here the end of the show, be sure to give us a big like, hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification too in our in the YouTube there, in order to get updated on all of our new videos and upcoming shows as well too. Be sure to share with all of your garden friends. And check us out at letsgetgrowing.live. And also, too, be sure to go and check out our Let's Get Growing Gardening group. It's on Facebook. It's a fun little gardening group. We have a great little urban gardener community there, sharing all of our different garden pictures and different things like that. And also, it really gives a great opportunity for you to be able to share your gardens with me. As I say all the time here, is I get the pleasure of sharing my garden with all of you through our show and our channel. And this is just a really great opportunity for you to be able to share all of your gardens with us and the rest of the gardening community there. So we'd like to see what you've had growing on, and show us some pictures from this last year's garden, or different things that you're planning and thinking about for your next year's garden, or ask any sort of garden questions of our gardening community, and as well as maybe answer some questions if anybody else has any questions too. So again, go check us out at the Let's Get Growing Gardening group on Facebook. And again, there are links down below in the description there for everybody joining us on YouTube. And again, thanks to Marc for joining with us here this week. And I hope all of you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all on next Saturday's show.